Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and we are joined today, as always, Midseason Awards with Grayson Hill. We're recording this during the thing formerly known as the All-Star Game, and so that just shows you in the grand scheme of where NBA fans think about the All-Star Game. So, but yeah, this is what people care about. Midseason Awards, as always, does pretty well, and like I've said before, I appreciate your thought process through everything. So we didn't get a chance to do this in the Luca pod because chaos. So talk about, obviously at Grayson_Hill on the screen, 1009 pod, all that stuff's linked in the description, but just reintroduce yourself and then we'll jump into this because this is always really fun.
I've lost track of my appearances through this, but this has been one of the ones I've come back for on a recurring basis. So this is once again Grayson Hill from last year and possibly even the year before that, Midseason Awards. So if you're part of the reason why these do well, I appreciate it. And thanks for coming back. But always good to sit down with Trevor. It is the All-Star break, which we just talked about it off camera, but stats don't change during the All-Star breaks. And we do prep. We have to do it once, which is really, really nice. And we're actually doing this in the middle of the, I guess, trio of NBA All-Star games. Shea dropped 12 points in the opener, so maybe he'll get 2 MVPs this year. But I say that having no clue how the rest of this goes for the next hour or so. So if that ages poorly, then, it's a guess. But hopefully the takes we've got throughout this will not age too poorly. We call it midseason awards. They're actually 50 games in of an 82-game slate, roughly. So it's not quite the halfway point. So it's, less time for our takes to age like milk, which is never a bad thing. So it is.
There's
like
just no point in doing this sooner. Like there just isn't. Like
no, because you prep and then somebody has 50 and then it's always tricky to do it as stats are changing. But since late last week and into early this week, stats won't change. So this is, I think, the best time to do it.
It just like they can do this in January. I know football's still going on. Like that's the idea. Is like, okay, the Super Bowl's over. What are they going to do when the Super Bowl, when they add the 19th week and then they make it the always falling on President's Day, where everyone gets the holiday off or whatever? Like they're screwed. Like it's just one. Like no one actually. I'm only going to Indianapolis in a couple of years because it's in Indianapolis. That is literally the single reason I'm going, and so I hope at least that's the goal. Just for context, we got to jump into the awards too, but like. I get this whole round robin tournament type the deal, but let me just read you Shaq's versus Candace's team right now. I have paused it. Dame, Steph, Harden, Tatum, Durant. That is Shaq's quote OGs is the team name. This is Candace's team, Rising Stars. Stephon Castle will be guarding Damian Lillard. Keontae George will be guarding Stephen Curry. Dalton Knecht will be guarding James Harden. Jalen Wells, who we'll talk about tonight, I promise, because I will be talking about him. Jason Tatum and Zach Edey will be guarding Kevin Durant.
Guess which team's minus 400? I mean, it's just
40-0. Like this is stupid. This is so dumb.
Right.
I don't like it. I miss the old maybe it's just nostalgia, maybe it's vintage footage. I just miss the old the Kobe dunking in the All-Star game. Like I just miss all the fun stuff. I get the competitiveness basically has plummeted since 2010 is really when I remember it being less competitive. But it is what it is. We're going to talk about guys that are competitive on the basketball court in regular NBA games, and that's probably even debatable as well. Let's start from the top. We'll go MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, Coach of the Year, which is a really fun one this year, I think. Clutch Player of the Year, stupid. We'll talk about it later. All NBA First Team, All Rookie First Team. That was fun. All Defensive First Team, also pretty fun. And then we'll do finals teams and winner. We've reached that point where we can start being confident, chest out with the answers. All right, let's get MVP done because people are going to rapidly click off after the first 3 awards anyway. And so who is your MVP?
It's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And so help me, if I have to do this from a soapbox another year, I will defect to Canada and join the pending war on the U.S. because I am so tired of Shea not getting the respect he deserves. Yes, he plays in a small market. No, Denver is not some massive metropolis. Jokic is the best player in the world. I'm not going to dispute that. anyone that does, their reasoning is not sound. But as we've learned throughout LeBron James's career and the fact he does not have 20 MVPs, that is not what the award is. So this feels like the year of coronation for Shea, especially when yes, you could point to playoff results, etc. No, that should not be considered in this award, and obviously it's not. So I think the narrative piece of this kind of gets warped a bit. Jokic a champion, Shea has not been to a conference finals, which fair, but we're only talking regular season here. So as the Thunder barrel towards 60 plus wins, the 1 seed, they're up 8.5 games in the West right now, which is nuts, considering how deep we thought that conference was going into the season. And he's the best player. He's going to win a scoring title. He's going to win 65 games at least, probably, the way they're looking. Weird loss on the way into the break, but that was the 5th game in 7 nights kind of deal. But they're starting to get some much warranted exposure on national television, which is great. That has not been a rare thing for the Thunder. That has been a rare thing for the Thunder, rather, in recent years as Shea's ascension has kind of started, which, it's tough to kind of catch the eyes of the nation when you're on NBA TV or you're not, you're entrusting people to pay for League Pass and watch that way. So as he gets exposure on ESPN, TNT, et cetera, nights like tonight, All-Star game, I think it's going to help his case. Not that he needs any more help. Like I said, this is not a best player in the NBA award. He is the best player by far on, in my opinion, if you look on the standings, the best team by far. Yeah, they split with Cleveland. That's kind of splitting hairs a bit. Cleveland, it's more of a combined effort, if you will. But Shea is the catalyst behind. This is looking like one of the more special seasons in the history of Oklahoma City's franchise existence. So, which is a pretty big statement if you think back about 10, 15 years ago where this team was and who was on the team. But yeah, if not now, when? I'm kind of at that point. Last year, I get it was neck and neck. I don't think there was a wrong choice. We said that when we wrapped up the season and did those end of year awards. But at Shea's time is now. Jokic, I can't say it enough, is the best player on the planet. He is dragging that Denver team to possibly home court in the playoffs because his supporting cast has not been named very aptly so far this year. But, they got about 30 games left. They got some time. And I still think it's going to be enough of a push for Jokic to surpass Shea. So I'm hoping, as a very biased Thunder fan, if you ever heard me on here, I'm hoping this is the year for Shea.
So I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with the way we frame these and do these midseason awards. It's that if the season ended today. So I like to always throw that out there because it's not to predict, like you said, albeit 30 games later. I know it's crazy, but a lot happens in the final 3 months. Like, it just is. Like, the way we think about these guys in 3 months is kind of a mirror. I mean, look at Boston 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that team went from a 500 team to almost won a championship against Steph Curry. It's kind of insane. Mm-hmm. That being said, I obviously have Shea as well, and I'll tell you the reason I think it's a lock. It's a lock today on February 16th, and it's a lock in 2.5 months. Is he has the best player on the best team argument, which unfortunately wins out more than I think I'd like it to. I think there's just years, like you said, like LeBron, if we're being realistic, like we could do that in the offseason one time. I'm sure we could sit down and do all of these dumb hypotheticals. But like, if we just want to go with, okay, best player, best team, LeBron probably has 14 MVPs just off the top of my head.
Something absurd. Yeah.
Like, it's dumb. Like, it literally astronomical number, which is why the word doesn't, it's why there's people bias in it. You mentioned the playoff stuff. Like, it's stuff that people think about and it clouds their judgment. I think that there should be some kind of litmus test if you are a voter, but that goes for all things AP poll included. He's played 53 out of 55 possible games. Like, let me just start with that.
Yeah.
And then let me start with his best production. He's up for the scoring title, 32 and a half, 5.1, 6.1. Like, you were speaking from the heart, and as you should. I'm going to speak from the stat sheet because that's what is a huge chunk of how we should think about these awards, because these guys are statistical anomalies at this point. 52, 35, 89 splits. He's the best player on the best team. He's also a top 5 defender in the NBA. That is completely understated. I'm just looking at Basketball Reference page stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, too, like, just from a basketball standpoint, I like to always mention this because being around college basketball a lot the last few years, it's really changed the way I think about the NBA in not in a negative, not in a negative way, but in just a way I evaluate players and think about them in a grand scheme of things, and especially in a team concept. What I mean by that is, I think it's one of the laziest, oldest things. Even coaches in college will say this, like when this guy has the game in his hand, the palm of his hand, and he's in control, the whole game's in his, like that kind of old, verbiage. Shea's like one of the four best players in the league that when the ball is in his hand, the game is playing at his pace. That's it. Like they have full control and they have a stranglehold on the rest of the game. Like it just is what it
Mhm.
is. And his speed has changed the direction. Again, none of this is like necessarily vying for an MVP, but when you're the most valuable player, which is the best player on a championship team, the stats themselves are just like a bargaining chip for him at this point. Like, and that's not to discredit anybody right now, but like if you were to ask anybody on a street right now, other than like the argument about, like you said, like who's on TV, who's not, he's been the best player. He's been the face of the league
Yeah,
this year. He's been this
right.
person that is just like at the forefront of everything that the NBA is doing. And all of those things combined in a big melting pot, it's the perfect case for an MVP we've had in a long time. It just is.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I try to do prep, then pull up odds on these awards, just kind of gauge where I'm at relative to
There are
the
some
rumor
I
mill,
literally
etc.
did not. I
Yeah,
literally
I,
pulled them up to start, and I was like, "Okay, who
yeah,
does Vegas really think is the most improved player?" Because I
right,
have no idea.
right, yeah.
Some of you
But
just
I
have
was
to. Like,
very surprised to see the lead in Las Vegas that Shea has in this award. I think it's a little closer than those might seem
it's
because I have,
substantial.
yeah, it's a lot. Um, I mean, that's just my respect for Jokic, honestly, as a player. But I mean, Shea, the scoring stuff, he could very well win the scoring title. He was due for like 31, 32 a night last season. Now he's popping off 40, 50 a night in condensed stretches, which build hype, which unfortunately you need to win the award. Stats aren't enough, records not enough. We learned that with him just last year. There's that third kind of piece of it where you've got to kind of capture the masses, whether that's NBA Twitter, whether that's Bill Simmons, KOC, whoever else. You kind of have to have your name come around the media circles as well to kind of really propel you momentum wise to win the award. And I think he's done that to say the least so far.
Yeah, boy, did talking about KFC. Boy, did he have a take the other night. I'm just gonna. It was tough. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I think.
It's talking about how Mac McClung shouldn't have won it. It should have been Stephon Castle because his dunks
Oh
not
yeah, that
were
was
not just show pony stuff. I was like, oh god. I was like, it's bad. I mean, look, I say that
I,
I'm the same guy. I'm 0 for 2 last night on predictions. I just
I
figured
had Hero,
somebody.
but I mean, yeah.
I had Dame or not Dame. Yeah, I had Dame for 3-peat. I didn't think Buddy
Hmm.
Hield was going to do that in the first round
No,
either.
I didn't either.
I was immediately as soon as he did that, I was like, I'm done. Dame's not winning this. Like, um,
No.
it was fun, like because there was so much going on. I was like flipping around, and I would like miss some of these guys shooting.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, and I missed the championship game. Oops. Well, there's other
Yeah,
things on 6 other channels, like the USA, Canada. Like,
that was awesome. Yeah,
let's just call it like MMA fight. That's basically what it was.
yeah.
Anyway, it's not what you're talking about. But my point being is there's so many things that these guys like have to like look, he's played 34 minutes this year. Like he's consistently playing less minutes on a better team. That's something even like
He
you can
sits
just see
fourth
him pick up.
quarters. Yeah, all the
But
time.
I think that does play a lot into it too. Like they've built
Yeah.
these leads where like I
Hmm.
mentioned the steals earlier too, 1.9 steals, one block a game.
Hmm.
I mean, almost a 4-to-1 assist turnover ratio. Like it's stupid. Like it's stupid to a way that like they would not be like they're a talented team, but they would in
Hmm.
no way be a team at the ceiling that they have, but with or without him at this point. Like you could say
No.
that about Tatum, you could say that about Jokic. Like you take the lazy answer is you take X, Y, and Z guy off a team, and like like the Nuggets. Like I said last year, like if you took Jokic off the Nuggets, the way Jamal Murray was playing last year, he's been better
Yeah.
this year. I was like, if you take Jokic off this Denver team, like they're vying for a top 5 pick. Like it's that I think it's that big of a drop off. Like Tatum, they can miss Tatum for a month, and I think they probably still win 15 out of 30 games. Like it just,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm just throwing out a number there. But my point being is it's just the blend of everything Not trying to predict the award, but just blend of everything. I have him right now, and I have him in 3 months. Like, I'm just not. There's nothing else I can say about it. All right. I think we made a great case. I don't think there's really any other. I mean, like, look, you said Vegas has X, Y, and Z. If you have it pulled up and you want to mention other guys really quick, that's fine. But I think it's a gap. I do.
It's I just the difference in like prices on these are it gets to the point you're like, okay, like Towns at 50 to 1. Is that even worth mentioning? Maybe. I mean, it's I mean, it gets
I would maybe mention the top 4 below him,
that
for what
deep
it's
in the
worth.
weeds.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Here, let me pull it back up.
I'm just curious, like, because I genuinely, I know it's Jokic after that. It's probably
It's
Tatum.
worthy names. It's Shea, Jokic, Giannis, Tatum, Wembanyama, Towns,
Wow, when you
and then
mentioned
that's
Towns,
it.
I thought you were just being like, that's the fact that
No,
he's
it,
that
it's
far up the
yeah,
list is crazy. Is he over Brunson?
yeah. He is the last guy listed at 500 to 1. So I mean, take that for what you will.
That is interesting. We're going to talk about a handful of those guys anyway in the next couple of minutes. Anyway, but it is just interesting that like it's just I didn't even like Giannis has had an incredible season, and I didn't even think about Giannis. Like
I
I
know
wasn't even like
it's
thinking him in that
yeah.
vein. Now, granted, we don't have a vote like a real vote, and like
No,
you have to do the 1 through 5 to like do the way
sure.
they score everything. I get it. Like it would be really really difficult after 1. It would. Speaking of not seeing something being difficult, this next award is not very difficult. I'll just
No.
start. Defensive Player of the Year. I have Victor Wembanyama, and I'm sorry, voter fatigue aside, over the next 15 years, if he's in the
Yeah.
NBA and he's healthy, I would vote for him
Mhm.
every single year because I'll say the same thing I said last year, and then I'll step out of the way. And if you have 5 minutes or you have 50 seconds, I don't care because I'm sure there's not a lot. Uh, it there is play like let me just pull it up. He is averaging over 3 blocks a game. And yet there are still possessions where he comes down the floor where you can tell there are offenses that have to think about where he is at all times. He is altering shots in people's minds. Like it is
Right.
I'm not even hyperbole with this. Like I'm genuinely telling people to don't watch the ball. Watch like 4 defensive possessions and only watch him and only watch the way the offense reacts to him.
Mhm.
If he like goes to the weak side, watch the way the ball ends up on the other side immediately. It's insanity.
It has
Um,
to. Yeah.
he's one of the best players on defense I've ever seen in 25 years, 26 years almost. Like I've just never seen anything like it. Somebody that can affect shots that well and in so many areas. Like he legitimately could stand in the restricted area and a guy near the free throw line has to be worried about if he's going to block the shot or not. It's
Oh yeah.
legitimately stupid stuff. And so I have Victor. I will have Victor until he walks off the stage and they put a jacket around his neck.
Yeah, we
That was
may have to start
hyperbole.
skipping this award because it's Victor.
It's so dumb. It's so
If
stupid.
he plays whatever number of games is required of him, it's done. If you check on FanDuel, if you bet $100 on him right now, you will take home $4.17. It's that bad. He is
It's so
minus
stupid.
2,400.
And by the
So
way, I did not prepare any advanced stats of any kind because I don't think they're
I
necessary.
don't think it's needed.
If
No,
you
I
watch the games
yeah,
he's in, you would
sure,
be thinking
yeah.
the same thing. Like
Or
it's
just
stupid.
watch an offense work against him and not against him, and try and see if they're any way similar because they're not. Uh, yeah, he's an alien. There's really no other word. He is an alien, and he is all impacting, all affecting, all disrupting everything. If there was a stat like a hockey assist kind of thing on a block, like he forced a bad shot clear across the court, he would lead the NBA in that, and it wouldn't be close. We just can't even quite quantify it because teams are so scared of him. He would have 7 blocks a game if they wanted to run their normal offense, but they just can't. So there's not much you can do against him defensively, and it's been incredible to watch in year 2. I mean, it's crazy to think how young he is and how much longer he has in the league, and hopefully it's decades. But yeah, we're gonna have to redefine voter fatigue with this award because again,
It's going to shape how we vote for things. It really is.
if he qualifies, I think he will win. Unless I just can't fathom a scenario where he doesn't win this award. I think his literal floor as a player the rest of his career is a finalist. I don't think it gets any lower than that. if there's a year where someone else is doing spectacular things, and they're like, all right, it's been Wembanyama for 7 straight years. Let's relax. That'd be
Like,
the only scenario I see.
is it far-fetched to think that, like, the Defensive Player of the Year award alone could get him in the Hall of Fame? Like, no matter
They
what
might
his
split
offensive.
it between bigs and guards based on this. They really might. Like, they may have to.
People are gonna think people are gonna think this is all hyperbole. Like, it's
Come
not.
back to this in 2030 and he still win. I mean, it's just 2035. Doesn't matter. I
It's
mean,
ridiculous.
I Dyson Daniels and Lou Dort and Shea are going to be screaming at the mountaintop to have some other separate award
What's
from
crazy about Daniels
Wembanyama.
too is if Victor Wembanyama didn't exist, Dyson Daniels is the clear-cut favorite. Like, that's how great
Oh
he's
yeah,
been on
yeah,
the ball this year. Like, I sat there and I put my all defensive team together. Spoiler, they're both on it.
yeah.
And the list started after those two. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
but like, let me like Victor got better in the block department. I know it's point 0.2 blocks
Yes.
better, but he's closer to 4 now than he was last year. He won the block champion. He won the block title last year and still
Mhm.
didn't win the award, which I know there's a lot. Rudy Gobert, the whole thing. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
I've got something on him later, and he's not fouling either. Like his the way he
No,
fouls is going to go down. Like he went up point 0.1 fouls per game to 2.3. He's less than 3 fouls a
he's in
game.
the game. Yeah.
So it's not like he's being taken out of it, like you just said. Like there and like steals, 1.1 steals to 1.2 last year. Like
Mhm.
it just shows you again without looking at anything advanced, he's getting better. And he's only the first. Think about how he understood. Now, granted, they've been grooming him and he's been grooming himself for years on like just becoming a professional. Wait until he like really understands the game at like 26
Right.
and
As he
30.
enters his prime. Yeah. I mean,
Like
this
his
is just the start.
concepts, like everything he's doing is just a freak of nature who understands basketball at a very high level. And as those two things get better, it's only going to get better. Like obviously, we talk
Yeah.
about the hyperbole of like you mentioned, they might split up the award. Like they probably should. And when we start getting into the defensive player of the year versus like, okay, now we're not even talking about that award for him because the fatigue will come from the MVP award. Like it,
Yeah.
like this is going to get more and more dumb every year with him. And again, I am not like I've held a lot back with him in the last 2 years, but like I sat down and did not think in any way I was voting for anyone. Like it did not
No.
even remotely. And this is no disrespect to the 4 other guys we're going to talk about in a few, maybe 30 minutes or so for defensive player of the year. Like it is no disrespect to one of I did not even it did not even cross my mind. I wrote him down, wrote a few stats, and I moved on. It was that fast. So,
Yeah. It was pretty quick.
um, I digress. We have a bunch to get to. Sixth man of the year. I have Peyton Pritchard.
I kind of wrote a couple names down, whittled it down. I got to Nas Reed. I know he just had a triple double against OKC, so I do
Fresh.
watch. Um, should that have decided who got the award? No, I just think that Minnesota is a bit underrated. I know they've not. They're going to go to the Western Conference Finals again? Probably not. Did they get worse with the Randall trade? Probably, but I think there's still something to be said. Um, about this team and how good they could be. And I think if Ant just flips that switch, that you never want to rely on a switch to be flipped, but that team could go places. And Nas Reed, one of the best contracts in the NBA for what he brings to the table and what he's paid to do. Pritchard, I thought about he'll be if we did finalists like a true ballot, he would have been on there. Probably been
He's
him,
podium for sure on that. Yeah.
Nas, and probably Westbrook. Even though Westbrook's been pressed into starting because of injuries and other things. So it was tough to really consider him because it's crazy to think that starting NBA games is a knock for this award, but it is the 6 man award. So, yeah, I went Nas Reed. I figured you would probably have Pritchard. I figured to bring a little bit of a different answer here. But I just think Nas and what he's able to do night in, night out. And it's really a lot of the dirty work too. Pritchard will come in and, um, you know, a lot of nights the Celtics are having a good night. He's in there playing 20, 25 minutes. But he's just grown so much as a player. It's not hard to imagine him winning this award.
That's what I considered,
'Cause
though. Think about like they used him. I hate to say this because he was better than that, but they used him as a show pony when he made that buzzer beater in the finals.
he
Like
was
it
the
was like
mop up guy. Yeah.
right, and like
Yeah.
he's a real impactful player now. Like that's
Sure. No,
not that he
yeah.
wasn't that, but like he steadily increased over year. Where I know that this
Mhm,
is not most improved player, but like
mhm.
he was so impactful this year comparative to what he was last year that I got to
Yeah.
a point where I was like when they went in slumps, like this is the first time in a while where Tatum and Brown would struggle on the same night. Like they had it last year, but it was never. They were just so dominant that when they did, it was like we could turn a blind eye. And now
Right.
they go through stretches where Boston's not the number one team in the East dominantly anymore. And when they needed to win games, Peyton Pritchard's been the person to help them out. And by the way,
Mhm.
you're totally like Nas Reed is probably the real right answer. Let me just be completely upfront about that. He's incredible. And the fact that they don't just start him is just a testament to
I
that
don't
coaching
get it
staff.
either.
It's just
Yeah.
a testament to that coaching staff and how they want to just I think it just works really well with him off the bench.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
I was going to say this earlier, and I heard you finish. I'm glad I let you finish your point because it helped me frame that next thought that I just gave you. Um, Peyton Pritchard checks the one box that you mentioned about it's a penalty to start games versus not starting games. I said this
Yeah.
last year about Nas, right? So I feel like you're gonna
Right.
love this. You know exactly where I'm going. Is
Mhm.
Peyton Pritchard checks a very important box for me in this award. He has not started a single game, so
Right.
that
Yeah.
is a really fun. I look for that first. I put a pool, every year I put a pool together and I say
Mhm.
okay, these 6 guys are probably realistic options. Okay, let's be real. There's only really 3. And then I go, okay, have any of them not started a game? I literally, it's the first thing I
Right.
check. Because then I could go, well, if it's close and I think my thought process out, I can go, well, Nas has started 8. Like if they were neck and neck like they were last year, I think it was Nas
Sure.
and I can't remember who was the second place guy. I'd have to look.
Monk.
Yes, that's what,
Yeah.
and I think it literally came down to Nas didn't. That's who I decided on. I was like, Nas
Yeah,
didn't
and
start
Monk got
a game.
hurt with like 2 weeks left in the year, and I think missed that
Right.
last little bit of the season, so that didn't help either. But yeah.
Yeah. But that's my point about Peyton. I didn't mean to cut you off
Mhm.
earlier, but I just
No, no.
it just shapes the way I think about guys because I like look, if Boston
Mhm.
needed him bad enough, they were going to put him in. Same thing with Minnesota. So like you
Right.
kind of just have to go with
Yeah,
why did he start 8 games? I'm sure you could pick it apart. I'm sure 3 of the 6 were around the Randall trade time. So,
probably. Yeah.
so exactly. So sorry, anything else about Nas or anybody else you strongly considered?
I mean, just Pritchard, a testament to his growth. He was literally the human embodiment of a white flag. He went in the game. They were up 18 with 3 minutes left, and you could go about your night because that was it. And now, to your point, he's kind of a stopgap between slumps. If one or two of their stars are in a funk, they can put him in with a certain combination of guys that Maz has ready, and that truly is a spark. Like that's not just a maintain our 17-point lead. It's like, hey, we were up 12, now we're up 4. We need a little something for like the last 2 minutes of a quarter, etc. And they can depend on that as an actual like needle mover in the positive direction. So, um, which is great to see because he excelled at his role at with minimal leverage, and now as his skill has increased, the trust from the organization to put him in bigger spots has been rewarded with better play. So he may not be eligible for this award for his whole career, but I think he's right in the thick of contention for it right now.
Yeah, he went up in shot attempts, like almost
Mhm.
4 of them, and his effective field goal percentage went up from 58.3 to 61.9.
Yeah, he's been great.
Great role, increased role, more efficient. That's
Mhm.
all things that I considered. So,
Right.
yeah, homework for folks, go watch his stuff at Oregon. It was some of the most exciting college basketball
Yeah.
I've watched in 15 years. It was stupid, and it was so much fun to watch. All right, that was good. I think we're pacing pretty well. Rookie of the year before the
Mhm.
30-minute mark. I think we've never
Yeah.
done that. I think that's awesome though, because it kind of gets gross after rookie of the year. It just kind of gets
Yeah.
like, okay, I had to really think about these, but none of it really cares. All right,
Yeah.
I have. Who do you have? I've said the last two.
I was
Put you on the spot
We
because
can't project out because it would be
you probably
where.
decided this an hour ago. That's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, because in the spirit of how we do things, we don't project because I really think that Ware is going to take this home for Miami, and it's going to be a
It's true. True.
pinpoint of bright light at the end of the dark Jimmy Butler nonsense tunnel. But right now, just looking at stats and guys qualified that have played enough games and kind of roll, it's not who I could have guessed the team. It wouldn't have been this player. I think it's Jalen Wells right now. I think he's been
Oh, okay.
very, very good, leading rookies in scoring. And again, second round pick, and I give him a little bit of a bump here because he's a second round pick coming in, same draft class, Zach Edey, who was not a second round pick and was the
Who
preseason
was
favorite
playing
to
like
win
the
this
rookie of the
award.
year for about 10 weeks or 10
I know.
games. Like
Yeah,
that
he
was
had,
it was clear
yeah,
cut for 10 games. I was like, "Oh my
we all
god, he's
thought
gonna
that was it. Like
Yep.
this is rookie year stops, and it has not changed hands to a different team, in my opinion. I've got Jalen Wells. I think he's again. I give a bump to guys that were not. He was drafted to play this role, but you come out of the second round of the draft, a different day entirely now, and you're putting up numbers that if you took away his player profile, we would assume Edie was putting up with ease. So I've been very, very impressed by him. Memphis is a great story this year. They'll be hosting playoff series. Whether they finish 2 or 3 in the West, it'll likely be one of those 2 spots, depending on how they shake out with Houston down the stretch. But I've been very, very impressed. He's somebody that I've caught myself watching Memphis on League Pass just to kind of see, him, Edie, Ja, that whole kind of group, Jaron Jackson Jr., who we'll potentially mention later on. It's been a very underrated story, and it's good. It's almost good to not hear anything about Memphis because we heard so much that wasn't basketball related. It's very nice to just flip a game on. They're taking it seriously. They're playing well, and I think that'll continue for Memphis.
His case is they're doing it with guys like him. They're doing it with guys like GG
Yeah,
Jackson. They're
it's
doing it with
right.
these young guys
Mhm.
that last year I know they had some health problems last year that compounded the
Oh,
job
tons.
problems. And so
Yeah.
these guys didn't get the
Ah,
opportunity last year. And so that was kind of the problem.
mhm,
I don't have Wells. I think he's been really good. I like you mentioned projecting. I think he probably is playing himself. Like if he keeps this pace up, he's winning it, like no question, because he's doing
sure.
what Jerry
Yeah,
McCain was doing for the first three and a
I
half
know,
weeks,
and I
4 weeks.
hate
Like
that.
that was
Yeah.
he was really like it was that was again
Yeah.
the same, like it was gonna be really close. It was gonna be a handful of guys, like and now it's just
Mhm,
kind of like I hated picking the award because it's no discrediting these guys. It's just I wrote down a note here like this class has been actually really interesting because there's so many guys that I think will end up being really successful, but they'll be really
mhm.
successful in like Peyton Pritchard type roles. That's what's been
Sure.
so fun is like, which by the way,
Mhm.
can't talk about young guys. Team Candace only lost 35-42 just now, with full of young guys.
That's
The point guard on
respectable.
that team, it
Yeah.
is, it's insane. They were actually winning at one point, like pretty close here before
Oh,
they got into
wow.
the 30s.
Yeah.
Um, to that being said, I have Stephon Castle, who was
Yeah.
incredible, the dunk contest.
Mhm,
None of this I did this Friday and Sunday, so call it what you
mhm.
want, clouding a judgment, don't care. Um,
Yeah.
he's just he I hate to use the same analogy after I just crapped on it in the MVP segment, but like he's learning from Chris Paul at a really rapid rate. Like you can tell
Yes.
that like
Yeah.
he understands. He always was really slow and methodical and thought things through at UConn. I think that's just a credit to love him or hate him, Dan Hurley. I'm
Yeah.
treading
I think it
carefully
is.
with my thoughts on him because just it just is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but he knows how to coach guys and he knows how to get guys in the NBA recently. He just does. It's fact.
Mhm,
And Stephon was never having to be the guy on the side that like Tristan Newton was there and they had Jordan Hawkins. They had all these guys like and I'm probably getting the 2 years mixed up because they had so many good guys the last couple of years, but you get my point. Donovan Clingan was obviously incredible. Like I just start naming guys. It is what it
sure.
is. But the point being is Stephon was almost like a secondary playmaker on that team. And we now know that he's a primary playmaker and continue to get better and better. And I think his defense is not even remotely close to what it can be in the next couple of years. He was always going
Mhm,
to be this guy that you knew would be excellent, but be excellent because he was helping other people be excellent. And I think that extreme example here playing with Victor Wembanyama got it. But he's just been so smooth and just so I like guys that understand immediately that they're not in control of everything, but they know what they're doing. And honestly, in a year like this, where he's still averaging 12.9 a game, 3.5 assists, semi efficient, 42, 28, 73. I get it. It's not going to be perfect, but he's playing 25 minutes a game. Um, Wells has been playing about 24 ish, similar shooting
mhm.
splits. Um, like again, we're just picking straws. And so I went with the guy that has just been really excellent in his role. And I just emphasize the role part of that more of Wells is like they've really needed him some nights.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of I get they're second in the West. Like that's just a fact.
Mhm.
And he's played a huge part in that. So I think I'd just be discrediting him if I didn't, give him a few moments there. But just I liked enough of Castle's two-way ability that if it's this close, I'm gonna give it to a guy that at least I expected to come in and be good, and he's been a little bit better than I actually thought he'd be. So that kind of played into it more than it probably should have, but that was my logic. I wasn't happy. My second note on my I had bullet points, and my second note verbatim was Jalen Wells deserves a shot as well. So that's how close it was.
Yeah.
Most improved player. Who do you have? This is just this one always. This is the one I told you earlier.
Yeah.
I just pull up the odds and I go, all right, let me rewatch some of these guys. That's where I start.
My guy, I'm glad I did this before I looked at odds, and I always try and stay honest with that. My guy's not listed on the odds on FanDuel.
It's dumb. They never are. Like it. Yeah.
I'll triple check this, but he's not. It's Trey Murphy. I was shocked to not see him.
It's a good one.
I get why Cade is the Vegas favorite. He's been excellent. The guy was the number one overall pick. I give a little more credit to a guy in Trey Murphy who's gone. I mean, just scoring 14 to 22. That leap is just so rare, and it's so impressive when it happens. Cade has been excellent, but I'd argue this is what we expected from Cade the whole time. Detroit's an amazing story. They're a very good team. They're above 500. This was a team that everyone watched to see if they would win a game within like a 45-day span against Boston last year. Ended up losing in OT. I think it was the most watched NBA regular season game all year. Because they're like, if you end a 26 or 27 game losing streak against, the eventual champion, like how random would that be? But yeah, I think Cade has been excellent, but I'm going to take Trey Murphy. I don't understand how he's not even. I literally could not go to FanDuel and take him to win this award right now. He's been starting, I have a very large amount of my social media feed is NBA, and he's been on there a lot more, which is encouraging because he's played so well, and he's kind of emerged as a legitimate star alongside Zion when he's playing and Brendan Ingram until a week ago. So I think he could step up and fill that, perceived void of star power with the Ingram deal. And I think that him and Zion as a duo, if they're both healthy and in Zion's case, taking his health and his performance seriously, I think there's something there in New Orleans. And if they can stay patient enough and just kind of trust the Murphy development, the Zion return to health, part whatever he's on right now, I think there's really something there. And Murphy has been super impressive for me this year. And I get that most improved isn't always the most apt definition for the award because it's a guy that was supposed to be good and now he's good. It's not like the NFL where you have to get hurt to win it or anything like that. It's a very ambiguous award. It's very random what the perceived kind of qualifications are year in, year out. It's very inconsistent, which is entertaining, but we also have to pick it. So it's kind of infuriating. But for me, it is Trey Murphy. And if you have not seen much of him this year, please go on YouTube, pull up highlights, do something, or get League Pass, go to League Pass. The more you watch of him, trust me, the more you appreciate what he's done this year.
Great two-way ability as well. That's something that just has always shined with him. And the athleticism, of course, is really good. Yeah, Coach Para is going to appreciate that one. Shout out Coach Para. Spending some time with him at Rice. I'm going to tread lightly on the NFL comment because you mentioned you have to get hurt. And Joe Flacco won it over a guy that literally almost died on an NFL field. So just going to let sleeping dogs rest. The crazy part is, when I'm done what I'm about to say, we absolutely need to at least read off. There's a lot of guys this year that actually deserve this. That was the
the odds are tight. I'll say that.
There's not even that. It's the amount of people that are even remotely I didn't blink at being oh yeah, if he won it, I'd be okay. Mine, because of the randomness of this award and how stupid it really is. It's the 1 year I can remember where I've actually been okay with a guy that's, second, third year kind of jump. I hate the first, second year. Let me just be abundantly clear.
Yeah.
It should never win, and I don't think it ever has. There's actually a really great article. I'll link it if I can remember. That talked about Cade and one other guy who's the clear cut favorite that I don't have. And he went the writer went back 15 years and basically told you each guy and who was similar to who won it that year. It was incredible. It was actually really, really good. I'll try to find it. With that being said, I have a guy whose stats basically have not gotten better. But when you watch this guy play, it is night and day. Like this is a better this is one of the most improved players in the NBA, and their team success speaks for it. Evan Mobley has been the most improved player to
Yeah.
me. Like it is literally he's 3.5 points per game better, and all of his shooting splits are the same, and all of his rebounding splits and everything have gone down. Like it's they've given him a bigger role, and he's been just as effective in that role, and then been more fluid and better efficient and just more across the board, more confident, I think was the word I was trying to reach out and fish for. He's just an incredible player now. Like it's what we all expected from a guy who was a top 3 pick. And now again, I'm going to talk about them a little bit more later, them as a team, but like they haven't solved the Allen Mobley problem by any stretch of the imagination,
No.
but they sure as heck have figured it out more than anybody's done before with these two guys. And so when he's getting the ball, and especially that Boston game that we all think back to from a few weeks ago when they were both whatever, like they were both top of the East or whatever. They gave him the ball in the fourth quarter at the end of the game. Like that was they were putting the
Right.
ball in his hands. This is a team that has Donovan Mitchell, by the way, who that game
Yeah.
wasn't. I think he was like 3 of 16 at one point or something stupid
He
like
was
that.
off. Yeah.
But like they won the game, and because of Evan Mobley's offense, they were feeding him the ball, albeit attacking a 40-year-old Al Horford. But he was taking the ball, he was facing up, he was shooting corner threes, like he was doing things that he wasn't doing 18 months ago. And it's all stuff just from, and I'm not going to articulate it, and I'm not going to do his ascension any justice in any form or fashion. But when you watch the Cavs play and you look at their record and you look at how they've kind of shaped themselves together, Evan Mobley's offense and his development is one of the biggest reasons. And oh, by the way, he's a guy that'll be strongly considered for the All NBA defensive first team. So with that,
Yeah.
all that being said, I think he's just been really incredible, and I think he's flourished in that role. So again, midseason, how I'd vote today, I probably stretched it a
Sure.
little bit on that one. I'd be honest.
I mean,
I think I went outside the
again,
board a
full
little.
ballot. I have him. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
if it's top 5 ballot, he's probably 4th, if I'm being honest. Like, if we're just
Yeah.
really, like, shaking things up, but if I
Mhm.
voted for him, I wouldn't feel bad about it. If I was the only like,
No.
when the exposed takes or whatever sends out the ballots and they show who voted
Yeah.
where and,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Mobley got 1 vote," or whatever, and I was the one
Mhm.
guy, I wouldn't care. I feel like I'd be vindicated in my choice. So,
No, I mean, there's a case, and you just did a pretty good job articulating it. It's funny to see, you know, I would say 2 to 3 guys strongly considered for the award are 1 and 3 in the 21 draft. It just speaks to how, how little patience we have with guys sometimes. And Jalen Green, sandwiched between those 2 guys, is sitting second or third in the West right now. So, and he was not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination coming out either. So it's been really cool to see a couple years down the road. Everybody's kind of cooled off a bit, kind of put some realistic expectations on these guys. And they've flourished. And the Cavs are excellent, tied for the best record in the NBA. Houston's going to host a playoff series. Detroit's looking like they could even play their way out of the play-in, which is unfathomable when you consider last year they won like 14 games. So I mean, it is really cool to see. And this isn't year 1 to year 2 jump, which I agree should never win this award. It's not the spirit of the award. It's not why you have it. But
correct.
I think that, overall, 2021 draft, having a hell of a year. Looking forward to continuing. And if, Cade favor at the moment, if he wins, no one's going to bat an eye. If Mobley continues this and Cleveland keeps racking up wins, I could easily see him winning this award. From the Vegas angle, quickly, Norman Powell, second behind Cade in odds, followed by Hero, followed by
And he
Mobley,
deserved it.
followed by absolutely.
Powell,
Yeah.
to be
Norman Powell's been a
Powell
great
deserved
story.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you wonder
Finish
why
the
the
list there. I
Clippers
got
have
you.
more than 25 wins, Norm Powell is your answer.
Yep.
Dyson Daniels made the cut odds wise. Amen Thompson, Christian Brown, J Dub, Wimbenyama, which is just, but whatever.
He got better.
I mean, yeah, he's 101 and should be. Max Christie, I don't think FanDuel realized he's not a Laker anymore, so he'll drop off of there. But that is the
He's been
last
really
guy
good, by
listed.
the way. He's been really
No, he
good.
has been good. He's been
I
good.
saw it
I got to
coming, by the
trash
way.
Lakers once.
I hate I didn't say it like when we did the pod, but I knew Dallas fans were gonna like talk themselves into Christie, knowing how
Well, you
important he
have
was to
to.
the actual trade. Oh yeah, of
What
course.
choice
But
do you have?
yeah, man, adding salt to a wound. My God. Yeah, the point being, I cut you off in the middle of the list, and I apologize, but honestly,
No,
after, like, the 4th dude, it was like, "All right, I get it." But that's the thing, like,
yeah,
all those guys you at least thought about. Like, Victor, I thought
sure,
about, even though it's a second-year
yeah,
guy, and there was one other second-year
yeah.
guy you said, and I was like, "Eh," who was it? It was like halfway up the list. It was actually Amen.
Right. Oh
Amen
yeah, yeah,
actually, like,
amen. Yeah.
I he's been incredible. Like, he's been A to B, 1 to 2,
Mhm.
whatever, like, however you wanna talk about this award. He's been one of the guys I wouldn't, like, immediately shoot it down, even though I hate that part of the voting.
No,
I think you're
yeah,
right, though. I think it's the spirit of the award. I think you're correct on that part of it.
sure.
All right. Let's hit a few kinda quickly here.
Mhm.
Coach of the year. I have, obviously, I think, Kenny Atkinson. I mean, literally a guy that I
Yeah,
vouched
yeah.
for multiple teams. A couple of pods that you were on, a couple of pods you weren't. Like, I talked
Mhm.
about Kenny Atkinson back in the early days of me and Josh on here. I mentioned him for the Nets. I mentioned him for the Pacers, I think, at one point. Like, I've been like in his corner on every job. Charlotte, I mentioned him for Charlotte. That's why we brought it up. I don't think it was
Well,
Indiana.
he
It was
was a Charlotte coach for 6 hours, was he not?
I think so. Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
but I was pulling for him because like that's a guy that I think could
Yeah,
get the right
yeah,
opportunity. And I'm not just going to sit here and take a victory lap. I'm not because he's got an incredible team he kind of inherited, right? But to
sure,
maximize some of these guys, he's an offensive guru, and to maximize all the things I just said about Evan Mobley, which is why it's a great coincidence that these two awards are back to back. That's
right.
part of the reason they both got the nod.
Mhm.
He took a similar Cavs roster, first in the East, and then at least for now, like you mentioned earlier, they figured out the Mobley Allen thing. There's at least times on the floor in the fourth quarter, in the final 5 minutes, in a time that we call clutch. That's not a segue because you got to go still. I'm not segueing us right to clutch yet, but it's the next award. It's it's at least a moment in that 5 minutes where I don't feel like immediately I'm in a panic. I'm not even a Cavs fan. I'm just saying from like a viewership at home taking notes for a podcast. I'm not immediately in a panic when those two guys are on the floor anymore at that time. So that alone is a big enough push for me to just take the record aside and go, yeah, you know what? They same team, but he's got him utilized in such a better manner that I think it's just, I mean, the record at that point is just a bargaining chip. So
Yeah, I've got Kenny too. I mean, you
I
mentioned
figured so.
last year for the Cavs, which is, it is this season, but he wasn't coached last season. They were a 4 seed, got pushed to 7 games by a young upstart, very much overachieving Magic team. And I don't think there's a person alive that would tell you that this Cavs team isn't just purely better than last year. Similar roster, like you alluded to, some kind of ancillary pieces moved around, like every NBA roster has year to year. But the Mobley ascension, I don't think is an accident. I don't think that's just Kenny Atkinson standing there. I really think he's put his basketball mind to the Mobley Allen, you can call it problem. They're two excellent players, but when they're on the court at the same time, just something was never quite there. It's why the Cavs were a 4 seed last year. It's why they weren't going further in the East than they did. And I think now that that's been solved to an extent, it's the NBA. You think you have something fixed, wait 2 weeks, somebody will do something, tweak something here or there, and they'll figure it out. But I mean, that Cavs team is just so good, and I think Atkinson deserves credit. Yes, he inherited a 4 seed. That's a pretty good team. That's about as good a team as you'll have that needs a new coach, whether they actually do or not. If they're on their coaching market and they're a 4 seed, clearly there's something there. You don't necessarily have to build it from the bottom up. I considered Ime Udoka just because you look year to year. Houston has been great this year. A lot of young pieces starting to come together. Not hearing about them off the court. I know Ime had his own dealings with that, and he was out of Boston for reasons not related to basketball. But just playing into the story narrative a little bit with Houston. I mean, this was not a team taken seriously last year. Um, and they started very well this year. I mean, Houston and Golden State were both great to start the year. Golden State has, fallen by the wayside, and they thought they were going to fix that with Jimmy Butler, but we'll see. And I think Houston has impressed me because I mean, they always give OKC a tough night here and there whenever they match up. Just one of those teams, can't really describe it. It's Houston, it's Dallas, it's Golden State, the Thunder. If they're playing those teams, I don't care what Vegas says, who's playing, where it is. It's going to be worth watching, and it's probably not going to be a good night for the Thunder. But yeah, I think Ime is a great coach. I think he's got a very good chance in Houston to kind of build back up his basketball resume to not overshadow or make us forget about what landed him in Houston. But I think that he can definitely show that he is a very capable coach in the NBA, and Houston's been dying for it for almost 10 years now. So, but I think the right answer is Kenny Atkinson. They're 44-10. I mean, there's uh, Mark Daigneault. I'm a Thunder guy. He won it last year. He got all the flowers he deserves. We thought the Thunder would be here, maybe not 44-10 also, but coming off the 1 seed last year for OKC, I don't have any problem with the kind of passing the torch to the next coach that overachieved, just like Mark did last year. So I think Kenny Atkinson is maybe not the only answer, but I think he's the right answer. So I'm good to be in tandem with you there.
I think the description of Ime and how what they've done is really great, and I think that was a great bow at the very end. So I'm good. I have nothing to add. Clutch player of the year. Who do you have?
I have so many names here, and they're all scratched out but one. And I went back and forth, and I finally just went and I hate to simplify it down to record, but I put Darius Garland. They're 16-6 in these clutch situations. His splits are very, very good. 84% of the free throw line. I think he's a bit better than that when you zoom out to obviously the whole game. But Cleveland's been great late. They only have 10 losses on the year. You're going to get some close calls. And 6 of their 10 losses have been in clutch situations. So, if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to earn it. So, and a little bit of it was like some teams you just kind of know off the top of your head are going to have a better record than most in the situations anyway.
Yeah.
I looked at Trey, I looked at Brunson, I looked at Cade, I looked at so many different names, and I finally just had to simplify it down to who is, in my eyes, the driving force behind why a team is so good in that situation. And I landed on Cleveland with the overall record, the 16-6 clutch record, like I said. And then I'm going to give Garland not all the credit because we've kind of hit on it a bit here so far. There's a lot of guys kind of coming together. It's not like a one guy like a Jokic or a one guy like a Shea most nights. I think it's a combined effort, but the most integral of those in my eyes is Garland. So that's where I landed on this award.
I'll be short and sweet. I don't think you can vote for. First of all, this is a stupid award at midseason because
Yeah,
we need the full season's worth of data. It just is what it is.
Sure.
Houston has the 4 highest players in wins in the clutch.
Oh, I saw. Yeah.
19 for Jalen Green and 18 for Şengün, Thompson, and Dillon. I am fully aware that if they're on the same team and they are on the floor in that time frame when they win the game, that they are included in the win stat. I totally get that. So they've won a lot of games in the clutch is the point, and that lineup specifically has done it.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Jalen Brunson, and I went with it in a hesitant manner. 19 and 12, so they're at least winning games. They're also losing games as well. Like, I'm totally aware that Garland is the better case. Now, you kind of told on yourself, too, which was kind of crazy because, again, this is – I'd say told on yourself from a standpoint of we just don't have enough data. You mentioned 6 of the Tabs 10 losses are in the clutch. But it's like, well, yeah, if you're in the game, like I can see both sides of the argument, so I could care less what people say about it. Like, it just is what it is. He's 5.3 points per game in the clutch. He's super efficient. I just left it at that. I don't feel great about it, and I don't think we should even do this award next year. So,
I mean, it could change in 5 games, literally. In an NBA week, we could have some tear from somebody, and these. When you think about these records we're spitting out, 16-6. I mean, that's a fraction of the season. So a lot of things guys may be late.
Just like run away with it for what it's worth.
Yeah, that really confused that, and the sixth man, or excuse me, most improved. Really,
I know a lot goes into that stuff, but it's just weird.
Trey's there, Jalen's there, Tatum is there, Maxi's there. That's shocking given their record, but Garland there, Fox, DeRozan, former teammates. That makes
2 guys that were in strong contention for the award last year as well.
And I think Fox I made the case for DeRozan last year.
Fox won it, did he not? Pretty sure he did.
I think it was a King. Yeah.
All right.
So this is not why you're here. So
let's do 30 seconds on executive of the year. I have Sam Presti. He made the Hartenstein move and he made the Caruso move. I know it wasn't a 5-pick superstar trade to get somebody that takes you over the edge, but like those 2 guys can potentially get you to the finals and actually help you win the finals. So having the cojones to even make those deals and get them as low as value as he did, I don't think there's any other contender. But
I mean Rob Pelinka because but
Hindsight's
Um,
2020. We don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just being
I
realistic. Now,
I don't
was it
care.
was it the heist of the century that wasn't in a movie? Of course it
Yes,
was.
the
Of
next
course
Ocean's movie might be about this trade.
it really should be.
But no, I had Presti too because Caruso, you know, is that going to
Man.
lead first take segment? What Alex Caruso brings to the Thunder? No,
It didn't lead it
um,
when they made the trade. Like, it
it
just
didn't.
but
And
it
at the
should.
time, I was very conflicted about the trade because obviously that we're still the youngest team in the NBA with that move, but we got a bit older, but more experienced. He's excellent on defense. Hartenstein, I believe, was the largest free agent contract ever, excluding Paul George potentially. I can never quite remember that math for Paul George, but
Oh,
a
for the
huge
Thunder, you
swing in
mean?
it.
For Thunder, yeah,
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 a
yeah. I think
huge
it
swing
still
in a
is.
small market. Was excellent on the Knicks last year. Was identified as one of the top guys, kind of on the market. And as
Yeah.
soon as the Thunder rumors started, I was like, I've been down this road 10 times. I'm not going to believe it until I see pen to paper. And it happened. And I was ecstatic. And he's been hurt here and there. Him and Chet, I think, have shared the floor like 3 or 4 times here in the first half plus of the season, which is discouraging on its face. But then I look up and I'm like, they're 44-10. I think it's going to be all right.
He's been
So
incredible when he's on the floor.
it's been awesome. So I think that does make Presti the answer. You're the 1 seed. Last year, you're the 1 seed. This year, you somehow have turned them into more of a monster. And he set himself up for a great improvement in season because I mean deadline for OKC very quiet. Last year, we brought in Gordon Hayward, who got on a podium after the year and talked his way out of the NBA. So uh, only up from there for Presti for the Thunder. One of the better off seasons player acquisition wise, I think ever for the Thunder. Again, this is not a free agent destination. There's no, LeBron rumors to Oklahoma City. James Harden's not playing in Oklahoma City again. Like when those guys hit the market, the Thunder are never even in line for a pitch, and that's just kind of a geographic thing. It's a new team on the block thing, whatever you want to call it. So to take swings like that, already having a team capable of coming out of the West in the regular season, I thought was very bold from Presti. But he's made very measured but very bold moves in the past. And are we going to trade 8 firsts for Cooper Flag? Probably not. But I mean, uh, we got the picks to do it. I don't think we should do that. But
It didn't disrupt anything either. It made you better, and I think that was
it
pretty
was
smart.
seamless almost. And I know Chet missed the lion's share of the first half with the hip, which I'm very glad to see him back when he did. Because when I watched it at the time, I thought that might have been another year ender. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I mean, this team has been incredible to watch. I feel very spoiled to have another title window. I, you know, almost not even a decade from the last one. It's very hard to line up two in a generation, let alone two in a decade. So, all the credit Presti's already gotten, all the credit he will get going forward. I think lands him as my choice for exec of the year as well,
All right.
which he's never won somehow. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, because it's either getting rid of guys and then bringing a bunch of picks in, and you can't quantify
Yeah,
picks to executive of the year, I'm sure, but you
yeah,
should. All right, getting close to the century mark here, so let's do all NBA first team, and then we'll rapid fire rookie and defensive teams. I'll do it like this: we probably have 3 together at minimum.
sure, yeah.
Knowing the 2 of us, we probably have 5 for 5. Actually, I take that back. I know we're 4 for 5.
I think I revealed by accident pre-show that
Yeah,
we
you did
weren't.
say something, and I was like, "Oh, that's right." But so I'll
Yeah,
just run through mine, and then we can just go off the disagreements at first.
all right.
Uh, in no particular order, remember, because there's a
Doesn't
game
matter
minimum
anymore. Yeah,
now. Yep, there's no, but it kind of worked out a little bit for me. I
yeah.
have Mitchell, Donovan, that is, Shea, Anthony Edwards, Giannis, and Jokic.
I mean, yeah, Shea Jokic Giannis is
That was the barometer. Like,
that's
okay,
the
we're
three.
here,
Yeah.
we go from there. Yeah. So who's the other 2?
I've got Edwards
Oh, good.
begrudgingly
All right.
because
Yes, let's
because
do
he
it.
also he pump faked the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So stupid. LeBron did it too, but
LeBron did it
just
yesterday.
I
That's the funniest part about it.
yeah, I don't know. Norm Powell, of all the guys that haven't deserved the injury bump up, that would have been cool to see. But regardless, my fifth guy was Towns. I think he's been that good, that impactful for the Knicks. Is he going to be? No. But here on the quietest soapbox in the world with no actual vote, like why not? Um, I gave you most improved player. You literally can't bet on right now. So, whatever the beaten path is, I'm not always going to be down it.
I don't think Mobley was on your list either of the Vegas guys. I don't think he was
I
he?
don't think so. Actually, no, he
That's what
was,
makes that
but
award so
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
It makes the word more fun.
But yeah, I mean, I think Towns has, in other instances in his career, kind of shied away, wilted from pressure, and the Minnesota tenure was just fraught with what ifs and coulds and shoulds. And you went to New York, a pressure cooker, the most intense market outside of Lakers in the NBA. From a media standpoint, from an expectations standpoint, like if you don't play well, Spike Lee is going to scream at you the entire game, and he has blossomed. I think this is one of the better seasons he's ever had. The Knicks are a contender in the East. I don't think their record quite shows just how good they are. There's just that many moving pieces. We almost forget Mikal Bridges is a Knick, just because of how big of a story that this cat trade was. A lot of conflicting emotions with Randall exiting New York and heading to Minnesota. I think the Knicks won the trade. I think they've been better since the trade. So however you want to look at it, and I think what makes the Knicks better since the trade is the emergence of Towns, and it feels weird saying emergence, but it's just a more consistent version of what we've always thought he could be. It's Brunson's team. I don't think that's going to necessarily change, but yeah, Towns for me to this point was someone I felt deserved the nod for first team.
Just for fun, last year, I had Shea, Luca,
Mhm.
Giannis, Tatum, and Jokic.
Yeah,
Quickly on Mitchell, it's not just best player, best team. When
sure.
he is on it from a scoring perspective, there's
Not much you can do.
there's like 3 guys in the league right now that just can completely get microwaved like that, like at the all-star level, at the first team All-NBA level. I agree that he probably won't finish there, but like right now, it's just kind of crazy because some of these awards, it got to a point where like I had to, in some of these awards, I had a hard time with 5 guys. It was kind of
Mhm.
weird. It was like, okay,
Yeah,
maybe it's injuries, maybe it's just the way I view things this year, or guys having down years like Tatum. Like Tatum would have probably been the first team guy over Mitchell, no questions asked.
yeah,
It just would have been. But
yeah.
he's having it, but to his standards, he's having a down year. And honestly, it
Sure.
makes it easier. I'm watching the Shaq's up 8-0 in this little target score BS thing that we're doing now. And like it makes it easier to look up and go, yeah, I have that guy. I have that guy who's
Mhm.
playing really hard, and I have that guy. And
Yeah.
yeah, nope, I think I'm fine with my 5.
Mhm.
So, quickly on Edwards, there might not be a more exciting guy of unpredictability. And what I mean by that is there's like 3 plays in a row where I have no idea how he's gonna score the ball, and he does, and, like, his three-point volume now is, like, at an incredibly high rate, and it's going in at a really high rate too, and so that was kind of the holdback for me for him was, like, is he ever gonna be an NBA elite three-point shooter? And it's starting to go in that direction, and I'm not making great cases for these guys, I fully am aware of that. The other 3 guys don't need an argument, and I see the cat argument. I do, because at that point, you have 2 guards, 2 bigs, and a forward. If you wanna consider cat a
Yeah.
5, sure, like, that's I
Yeah.
don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. Um, I just think Mitchell and Edwards, I think those 2 guys alone, we didn't disagree on Edwards, but I'm just those are the 2 guys people are gonna look at and go, "Yeah, I can
Sure.
disagree with those 2 pretty quickly." Um, but if you wanna go down the list of guys that, for arguments of seasons comparative to recent, I think those 2 guys actually really deserve it. I think Towns is the next guy, and after that, that's why we have an All-NBA second team and not 2 first teams. So,
Right. Yeah.
I went with Mitchell. Again, I don't feel 100% great about it, but I think he's just been dominant enough that he's been good enough that they obviously are a good team, and obviously we mentioned Atkinson earlier and stuff, as he literally just nails it. Oh, he missed the 3, never mind. It would have been a great timing on my part, but he's just been so engaged, and he's been so locked in on both ends that I just think it's worth giving him again, I know I've given him the worst argument in the last 4 minutes, but He's been really, really good. So, all right, that actually went faster than I thought it would. Because again, there's like 6 guys. I'm just looking at like guys I voted for last year for second and third team. You know what? You know what? Let's do that really quick. I'll just go off of who I had last year, just for barometer's sake. You mentioned Towns, right? And then I'll get through these guys. And if there's anybody I left off, then you let me know. Second team last year, the way I'm asking this is just stop me when there's a guy that you strongly considered or would put on the first team, no doubt. Halliburton, Brunson.
Yeah.
You have a teammate, so you'd at least think about it, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. I don't think if you put either Nick there at this point, Brunson, maybe a couple
he's
more
having a
questions
down year
arise.
relative to last year, which is kind of
That's the thing. It's the Tatum argument against it is that Brunson has been so good, Tatum has been so good that when they're 95% of themselves, it's noticeable only because of how good 100% of them is. So I think that's fair.
So I honestly think that we're at 0 guys so far because of Towns. I would give it to Towns in that argument. LeBron for first team right now.
I would love to. It's just I
couldn't.
Yeah.
All right. Anthony Davis. Pre-trade. Pre-trade. He's been really good pre-trade, right?
I mean,
first team All-NBA good? No? No, probably not, right? Yeah. No. This is my point. I'm doing this on purpose. Joel Embiid. Steph Curry.
That's a tree falls in the forest kind of thing. I mean, if Steph has 45 and they lose, does anybody care? I mean, that's
a great way to put that.
Who Draymond hits in the face is more of a story than Steph hitting 10 threes these days. It's sad. It shouldn't be that way, but it
shouldn't. It shouldn't. He should ride off into the sunset gracefully. Lillard. No. Booker.
No, that Suns team is just so
weird,
collectively disappointing. I just can't.
Durant.
I mean, he's been playing. He's played well.
He's played well in these All-Star games tonight too. Actually, I'm not being
right because I mean he knows he only has to play about 20 minutes. That whole Phoenix ordeal experiment, whatever you want to call it. We will not be referring to Durant as his son when we do this next year. I can tell you that. In doses, yes, but I think if we're going to zoom out to the entirety of the first half, I would struggle a bit more than I would think.
Here's a poetic segue. The last guy I had last year was Anthony Edwards. So I think we made the right choice with our 6. Let's just call it the 6 for now. All right, let's rapid fire this. All rookie first team. I have Stephon Castle. I'm just going to go right through this. Jared McCain.
Yep.
I literally did not look at games played. Could not care less. He's been incredible. He's been the third best rookie. Like Jared McCain, Jalen Wells, Carlton Carrington or Bub Carrington, and then Yves Misty. Don't have the first 2 picks on the board.
Yeah, and I think that one of the 2 will be a finalist just by nature of neither of those teams. Well, Atlanta may. The Wizards, you can go do whatever you want. I think Carrington is the most deserving Wizard right now. I have him too. I mean, McCain, if you restrict me to when he played, I write and pin for a reason. He would be on here.
I know.
I'm with you on the games played thing. It's hard, especially in a draft class that was so maligned going in. Like, this is the worst draft class since, whatever. When the best player goes out so early after such promising returns that weren't totally expected just because where he was drafted. I mean, shocker, Duke guy in the NBA, but still, he wasn't 1, he wasn't 2, he wasn't 10. But I've got Castle, I've got Missy, I put Ware in place of McCain, essentially. I got Carrington, I got Wells. And Ware, I'm prisoner of the moment there. I fully admit it, but he's been so good for. When did I start talking about? Like a month ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, you were one of the first.
As Spo kind of unleashes him a bit, minutes wise, role wise, as obviously the Butler cloud moves west. I think he'll find more opportunity, and from what I've seen in his limited opportunity, I think he'll do very well. So,
Butler cloud moves west. That's an all-timer. That's good. That's really good. That's one of your best ones. The list is long, but that's really good. It's simple. It was to the point. It made me laugh, and I moved on. It was good. It was really good. I have to just say it. All right. No, I think Bub's been awesome. Like, I think that's kind of the thing
He's
that,
been very good. Yeah.
like, all these guys, by the way, efficiently are horrid. Like, it is not like all
Oh,
of these guys
yeah.
are in the garbage when it comes to efficiency. But who
Yeah.
cares? They've been so
Doesn't,
good.
yeah. I mean, Carrington, I tried to trade for him in our dynasty league for weeks and
He's
couldn't,
good.
unfortunately.
Well, so like, and that's the argument. People are going to be like, "Well, I can't believe you don't have one of the two top guys." And I'm like, okay, Reece Shea has
Why?
basically been reduced down to a complimentary role player, which I think he's done really well in. Uh,
Which, yeah.
the amount of SAR shots from three on one leg from 29 feet with
Ugh.
24 seconds left on the shot clock, 22 seconds left on the shot clock is absolutely disgusting. And that alone was worth it not putting him here.
I mean, in his defense, he does watch Jordan Poole play basketball every day, so I don't know that we can totally disparage him
Probably the
for,
best time he can shoot the ball because Jordan's got the ball
following the
next.
leader on that. I mean, Kuzma, I
Uh,
think, is a quality player. He's no longer there.
I was gonna say he's not.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so there's your role model, I guess.
yeah.
But
That's
I just the Wizards need some ping pong balls. They need a lot of things.
they need time and they need patience,
Yeah,
and those fans
and
have
that
a
the
lot of both
patience
of them.
part is where no team in the league is capable of.
The fans are as
But
patient as ever. I promise. I follow a lot of DMV folk on Twitter. Shout out to Matt Moderno, but man, those guys have some patience. They watch these games like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and I'm like, you are putting
which
yourself
credit to
through.
them. Yeah.
You're putting yourself through so much mental warfare. It's not even funny. It's so bad. But shout
Oh,
out to them because they've got some young guys they've stuck through and they've been really excited about. Like, I know
of
they
course.
love the other French guy, Koulibaly, still. Like, that's love him.
He's
I think he's been really
he's gonna
good.
be, yeah.
But he'll be a toolsy, fun wing that if he can continue to be this good defensively, then
Mhm.
it'll be weird to see where he heads. All
Right.
right. All defensive first team, finals teams and winners, and we'll get out of here. All
All right.
defensive first team. I'll just run through them quickly. I have Daniels, Shea,
Yep. Yep.
Jalen, Williams, that is.
I Yeah, I put Dort, but
I was going to put one or the other, and I was just going to go with whoever you didn't have. So
yeah,
I
I
put,
went Dort.
all right.
I think the Dortcher chamber needs his due credit.
I don't have it written down,
But
but I'm
again,
pretty sure Williams' efficiency was better. Like defensive efficiency was like
I think it
a
was. I
lot
glanced
better.
at that
And
too.
so
Yeah,
okay, I was like, all right, whatever.
sure.
Two of them need to be on here. It's just a matter of
At minimum, yeah. If Caruso's not a good enough overall player, or his 2K rating isn't high enough, fine, whatever. But in the role we need him to be, he is excellent.
it's not this simple, but I will say if the argument for me earlier for Mobley was we'll just watch how he's been. Dort from an effort. I mean, this is not a disrespect to Williams at all.
Mhm.
When you watch him, sometimes you can like tell that he just does so much offensively. There's some defensive possessions that he's just like, I'm
Well,
done. Like,
sure, right,
but Dort doesn't do that. Like Dort is like 40 minutes,
correct.
feet dug
Yeah,
into the sand, and you're just not getting by
yeah.
me, which is fine. So if that's the
Mhm.
if that's the difference, I went with the guy with the better defensive rating.
That's fair.
Sue
Yeah.
me. I went with Anthony Davis. I don't feel good about it. There's probably a fifth guy you can tell me, and I'm going to say you're right. And then I have the guy we both voted for the next 15 years, Victor Munoz. So where
Yeah.
where are we at with Anthony Davis? Who do you have otherwise? Let's go through that.
I've got Mobley.
Oh God, I'm such an idiot.
I was wondering, I was like, did we already say him? Can I not count to 5?
Okay, I take this back. Sorry, Anthony Davis.
Uh,
Yeah, Evan Mobley's been really good. I will say though,
yes.
Davis before the trade, when he was fully healthy, locked in there for
I'm
that
with you. Yeah.
it was
That
good. It was
second
really, really good.
qualifier when he was fully healthy, which is
Yeah.
now more of a fairy tale than anything.
Mobley's played like
Unfortunately.
53 games.
Yeah. I
Dang,
know. And
I didn't think
yeah.
about it.
So I've got Mobley and Wimby in the paint. Shea, Dort, Daniels to round out my not so positionless all defense team.
What's crazy is we were talking about how not deep some of these awards and teams were, and this actually might have been one of the deepest ones in a while.
Yeah, you'd be
For how
surprised.
not close to first, for how not close to
Yeah.
defensive player of the year is. This is a really deep
Right.
list,
The one got the individual award is a joke, and this one we could sit here and name 15 guys probably.
which is why I feel so bad for these guys because like he's going to win it for
There's
15 years. And
I'm
these
telling you,
guys are
there's
just
going to
going to
be some
watch
sort
in
of
sorrow.
they're going to have to split it to
Like, they're gonna
guards
watch
or
in
something.
pity. Like, it's literally gonna be just this,
Yeah.
"Okay, cool. Do my 3 steals a game not mean anything to you?" Like,
Right. Exactly.
it's stupid. I wanted to bring up a point about a guy that we neither of us even thought about, it sounds like. Rudy Gobert's having the worst defensive season he's had since his rookie year, statistically.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
just
I say that because he's
yeah.
tied or 1 point. So, like, I'll read the stat fully. 1.5 blocks per game is his second lowest since his rookie season. He had 1.4, so I guess it's his third lowest. I should say that better.
Mhm.
1.4 and 22-23, but he still won the last, like, 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, right?
Been a few. Yeah.
So he won in 22-23 despite having his lowest block. That's crazy. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Still won it because he was that good. And in his rookie year, he had like less than a block a game. So basically, this is his worst season ever, essentially, because he did. Let's just wash 22-23 because he won the award, if I'm correct. He won 3 in a row, so he had to have like 22, 23, 24.
Uh, it
He
was
had to.
it was Jaren Jackson in 22-23.
That must have been the skip year. He has 4
Yeah.
total. He had not. Okay, I'm following now. So
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
way, he's having his second, let's just call it, or third worst season, and we're not even considering him for the first team. I have no
No, and it
point
felt
just
odd
bringing
to
it up.
do that, but
Yeah.
just I got I try to do
Won
it
last year,
too.
by the way. Like,
Yeah, I was sitting here like, surely I can get Gobert in here, and I couldn't. Not over Wemby, certainly, of course not. At least like we've kind of landed on. There's at least 2 guys out of OKC that deserve to be on here. Dyson Daniels certainly deserves to be on here, and then you're already kind of boxing yourself into one spot. And I think Mobley not being recognized as a first team guy would be a disservice to him. So I just simply ran out of room.
I just changed, but like, so for the sake of record and the fake, this is recorded and it'll be posted in its authenticity. I just changed Mobley to from Anthony Davis because that
Yeah,
was just complete oversight as much as I was hyping him earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. Let's do finals, teams, and winners. Um, I'll be short and sweet, so go first.
All right. I'm gonna take the Thunder out of the West, and
Shocker. I'm just kidding.
yeah, I'm a lot of things. I'm not unbiased. The East is tough because you have the proven commodity in Boston. Did it last year, won a title last year. You have the upstart team, not all that dissimilar from Oklahoma City last year. In Cleveland, although Cleveland has much more playoff experience than the Thunder did. I think that will be an all-time Eastern Conference Finals. Boston, Cleveland. Obviously, the LeBron years in Cleveland, this was appointment viewing every year. I'm going to have to go Boston out of the East. I just think until I'm proven otherwise, and I know that they're thanking their lucky stars. Jimmy Butler no longer plays in the East, and we've seen that play out like it has in the past. But that kind of that cursed matchup, the Heat can't really hurt them anymore. So I think with that, um, and I mean, I would have to see somebody beat them 4 out of 7 before I sit here and say that Boston won't even emerge from the East. If a team was going to do it, it would be Cleveland or it would be the Knicks. I know I was higher on the Bucks than you preseason. I kind of see where you were coming from with them
But
at
they're
this point.
29 and 24, and they're fifth in the East, which is
Right.
we're both wrong somehow. I don't.
Yeah.
That's weird,
They're
right?
right in the middle. They're not good enough to be a true contender, but they're not bottoming out in the play in. So, um, yeah, I think one of the trio of um, Boston, Cleveland, Knicks comes out of the East, but I'm going to have to go Boston. Um, and if I pick the Thunder to lose an NBA Finals, don't ever have me back on here. I'm picking the Thunder. I think it would be one of the more impressive series that the Thunder have ever won. They've gotten to one finals as a franchise, and they lost that in 5 games. They learned quickly. Game one does not mean as much as you think it does because they ran into LeBron chasing his, uh, first title, and they won game one, and then it was ugly after that. So thankfully, LeBron will not be a obstacle on this title run. I don't care what Shannon Sharp says. We would beat them in 5 games. But I think that I think this is finally the year for Oklahoma City. 2.0 title window, had the 1 seed last year, didn't win 2 playoff series. And I think this is a year with the kind of deterioration of that upper middle tier of the West. Dallas is obviously in shambles, and that was one of our gotcha teams. The Warriors, uh, they have about 2 more weeks of happy Jimmy Butler, and then he's going to want 65 million a year at the age of whatever he is. So I'm not too worried about them. Um, and I think the Thunder can do it, and I think it's going to be awesome to watch. I hope they at least get to this point. It's not quite finals or bust, but when you're that good, that certainly is the expectation. So, I mean, purely as a fan, I think if I was ever going to seriously pick the Thunder to win the title, it would be this year. So I'm going to go with them over Boston.
So simple question, because I think your Bucks point was really good. Does it feel like coming to the year we were like the West is stupid, it's 10 deep, it's going to be a bloodbath?
Yeah, I
Does it,
know.
does it feel like it's flipped in any way? Perception of the two conferences,
Yeah, I definitely think of the East as deeper.
which is
I
crazy
mean,
because we only
this
really think
Pistons team could shock somebody. I mean, it really.
there's
Um,
6. You're right. They
yeah,
are.
I mean, they're going to be on the road. I consider 5-4 an upset in the NBA. I know it's not
But,
much of one, but
but my whole point, like, I only ask it from this point. Like, you mentioned in the East, you mentioned 3 teams, regardless of your fandom affiliation. You never really got serious about more than 2 teams in the West, and most people aren't.
I just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I looked and looked and looked, and I was like,
A lot
okay,
has to
like,
change. I get LeBron, Luca, like, there's a lot there that could change everything for them.
of course, yeah.
Like you said, Dallas basically got stripped naked after that. Like, it just felt, especially with Davis's injury. I only asked that because there's a thing with Basketball Reference called the simple rating system. If you're not aware, it's actually a really great way to
Mhm.
value and see when people start bringing up the West versus the East arguments, like we always do, because I think it's just a bored, lazy thing that we do. But that's just kind of fun to talk about. But it's real, and we talked about it before the season. We were like, the East is 2 teams, and oh my god, it was 3. I think technically, I don't think we even
Yeah,
considered Cleveland in that category at that point. At that moment, it was basically Boston and New York, and that was kind of it.
yeah.
And then the West, it was like X, Y, and Z team before, of course, what happened at the trade deadline. Uh, the East only has 3 teams that are in basically the positive. I'm not the Pistons are really quick. Let me read the stats so it makes more sense.
Mhm.
The simple rating system is a team rating that takes into account average point differential and strength of schedule. So it's basically the number that you see is 0. 0 is the middle, and points above, right? The East has 3 teams. I'm not counting the Bucks at 0.49 and 0.03 for the Pistons. The East has 3 teams above. Let's just call it 3.
Mhm.
4.82 for the Knicks, 8.46 for the Celtics, and 9.68 for the uh, Cavs. The West has 10 teams with a
Hmm.
positive margin in total, compared to 5 if we're counting the point whatever that's
Wow.
less than 1%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The West has 8 if you don't count the below 1% teams.
Mhm.
And somehow I still feel better about the East. I'm just using that as a barometer. Again, it doesn't
Yeah.
give you everything, but
I mean, I'm staring at it now, just thinking like, I mean, Memphis, we've seen this from them before as a high seed, didn't work out. Denver, they just don't feel like that's scary at this point.
36 and
They've
19
got,
too. That's crazy too. Their
which
record
is
wise are
just
right where they want to be.
right. You sign up for that all day at the break. And I
For
just,
context, the Thunder is 12.74.
that's
They're almost
crazy.
4 points above the Caps.
I mean, barring a disaster, Oklahoma City is going to have home court throughout at least the Western Conference. And I think that gives me more confidence than if we were a 2 or a 3 seed. I mean, Houston, great story. I don't know that is going to be a 3 playoff round win team.
Fourth
The
best team amongst this metric because they've won hard games.
right, and the clutch stuff doesn't surprise me with the guys you listed off. The Clippers are the 6th seed. I think that's kind of my Mendoza line. Like,
Yep.
Norm Powell's great. Would he have 40 against the 1 or a 2 seed? Would they steal a game? Sure. Beyond that, I think that's really the ceiling for the Clippers. They'd force teams to miss some free throws at home. That would it's just such a different animal in the postseason. And I can tell you firsthand from watching the Thunder bow out a series and a half in last year. So I think it really is almost a completely different sport. Um, but the West just does not have the same look, uh, depth and intimidation wise that it did in my eyes in October. And that, that could change between now and the playoffs. But I just, there's nobody in this entire list that I don't think the Thunder could go beat with home court. Um,
Couldn't beat, right?
right.
You mean like they
Sorry.
could
Yes.
beat anybody? Now, making sure I understood it.
Exactly.
'Cause you're right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
of the second team in the West in this step. Like you've literally
Yeah.
doubled the Grizzlies. It's kind of insane. I only bring it up because it's just a perception thing versus what a stat says
Sure.
versus what we watch every night. And so I just only bring it up because I thought it was interesting as I was just waiting, letting you get to your point and kind of thinking through how I was going to answer it. And I still don't think I know who my East team is after all that time. I have the Thunder in the West, and I'm only going to go off the fact that I'm allowed to change this for the next 3 months, and eventually it's probably Boston. But the lows have been like unchampionship level
They've
lows for
been
them.
bad. Yeah. It's
That's the
just some of
issue.
these like weekend games where I'll be flipping around and they're down to the Pelicans late or stuff like that.
I get that they aren't taking it like they'll take it more seriously. Like it's just I get
Sure.
there's a whole thing about that, but like
Yeah.
I'm gonna right now I'm gonna pick Cleveland and I'm gonna pick the Thunder, and it'll be probably one of the best finals. We might get 6 podcasts out of it. We
Yeah.
might.
Finally.
We
Exactly.
might. We really might because they're both 44-10. They're both
Mhm.
the best 2 teams in any metric right now,
Sure.
and they're both eye test the 2 best teams in the league. I think
And
it's
at a
that simple,
minimum, I think
and
we'll
I pick
get at least one of the two in the finals. I don't think there's a way we're both miss.
like you said, Dallas was the gotcha team, and I just don't know if there is a gotcha team this year. At least not all the way to finals gotcha. I think
Right.
it's one of the 5 teams we mentioned, and
Mhm.
I'm not discrediting Memphis in any way. The 5 teams that make the finals are me or Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, Thunder, Nuggets. That's it. I draw the line there
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't. I'd have to start stretching to get to other ones. So yeah.
to finish the answer. Uh, I would also pick the Thunder because they would have the best team in the series, best player in the series. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been doing this a while. That was why I was like, wait, which? Well, I guess they would have the better team if they won, right? Isn't that kind of weird? All right, that
Yeah.
was fun. Midseason war is always the best. Don't care how long it takes. You glad I didn't try to prep some stupid. Steph just took a half court shot and made it like a 3-pointer. This is stupid. He literally just pulled up from half court and made it to go up 26-15. I'm done here. Plug away. You guys got baseball, obviously. That was fun. Opening weekend for you guys. For those who don't know, Clemson, basketball and baseball. Steph just took a second half court shot and missed it. This is stupid. He's so much fun to watch. You guys got Clemson baseball that won on opening day. Clemson basketball, I just voted, I believe, 11th in my poll. I'm finishing that as soon as we hang up.
There we go. Yeah.
11th. They've been incredible. And football, you just made the ACC won the ACC championship. So, look, you guys are. It's amazing what winning will do to every other team when one team starts to win and everybody else starts to make a little money. It's crazy how
Yeah. No.
sustained excellence. So, sorry, that was your segue to plug away.
No, you're good. Yeah, me and my 2 college roommates do the 1009 podcast. Clemson baseball 2-1 on opening weekend. Always good to see. Our coach had to coach from a hotel room for the 2 wins because he got ejected from the super regional because the umpires were awful. But so we have the best hotel coach in the country, Brad Brownell. I wish he would coach from a hotel, but he keeps winning games, so I can't really disparage him too much. They may not be top 20 come tomorrow, but Trevor knows ball and has us 11, sounds like. So I will be spreading that propaganda, and the real AP poll can just keep sleeping. That's fine. We went to an Elite Eight last year.
You beat Duke and North Carolina in the same week. I know North Carolina's been bad.
Yeah, we murdered
It's
Florida
stupid.
State yesterday. So, I mean,
It's
it's
stupid. Those 3
we're
wins
rolling.
alone, I moved them up 4 spots. Like, it was enough to be like, got it, cool. What your downside was basically every team in the top 10 for me won, except for 2
Yeah.
teams. So you basically didn't get any other what I would call bump advantage. So
Hmm.
look, it is what it is. This isn't a college basketball podcast today, but they've been incredible. I think they're just as good as they were last year. I think Hunter's
Hmm.
been All-American, good. I think he's been
He's been
ACC first team
excellent.
all good. If he didn't win that award, I'm gonna riot. It's especially as how down this league has been. Like
Mm.
it's crazy. You guys have been really, really good. It's been really fun to watch. Um, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, coming up on a year with Bet Openly. So
Yeah.
as we get into golf major season, NCAA March Madness, which they better not expand.
Oh, it's
I
happening.
think,
We don't have time
yeah,
today, but I'll tell you off air.
so dumb.
It's gross.
If you want to bet TGL, the video game golf stuff is pretty cool. Nice, relaxed environment. Guys just out there talking trash pretty much. A lot of the game's biggest personalities out there just screwing around, which is always nice.
Only thing they're missing is a Coors Light. It's kind of crazy. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty sick actually. I hated it because they were on and it was like cutting off a really big college basketball game one day, and I was
right.
annoyed and I was basically annoyed from that moment on. And then I watched it one day a couple of weeks ago and I was like, this is kind of awesome. Like if you just
It's
actually
pretty
breathe
cool.
and absorb it, it's kind
Yeah.
of sick. So anyway, I digress.
But yeah, so NBA, NHL approaching postseasons as they get through their midseason breaks. You will not find better odds than Bet Openly. They take 1% hold, not 10. So if you're on FanDuel, DraftKings, offshores, whatever, you're sick of betting 110, 112, 115, 120, 130. Um, Head to Bet Openly, sign up. Takes about 30 minutes to get verified, and you'll be rolling. It's peer to peer. So if you and a buddy disagree on a game, shoot each other a direct link. There's no hold on those. So, throw $20 in, get $20 out from your friend, or hopefully you won't be losing too much money. I took $25 from Bailey in the Super Bowl because he supported their satanic quarterback and the Chiefs. So, was very glad to win that one. That was his first bet on there. So, finally got him signed up. But yeah, like I said, been with Gino for about a year now. Kind of navigated through all sports to this point, and I have zero complaints and all the praise in the world. It's great for my own personal use, and I've been trying to tell everybody that'll listen that if you bet on sports, any sports, that is the place to do it.
Love it. I love it. I'm glad you got that plug in because you told me about it. You texted me about it. I'm not doing as much of it, but these guys, I just the support of every post ever about them. Like, I'm sure they'll hear this podcast. I'm sure they'll retweet it from 72 different accounts. So, yeah, shout out to those guys. Thank you. This has been really, really fun as always. Got a couple of months here. Keep watching the NBA because the end of season awards are here before you know it. And I'm sure there will be some really dumb thing that we'll talk about in March that just happens. But unfortunately, there's this tournament. You've probably heard of it. You mentioned earlier, probably expanding it. So that's going to be my focus for a little while. But the NBA is always on. So as the Team Curry, just or Team Shaq, whatever it is, they just won. So all right, let's get out of here. On behalf of Grayson, the 209 podcast, Bet Openly, all the friends and partners of this show. This has been the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. If you disagree with us, the comment section is right below us.